Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're completely flipping the script on how you look at one of the most critical parts of your home. If you live down on the Georgia coast, it's pretty easy to just look at your roof as, a decorative capstone, just that necessary lid on the house that keeps the rain out. But we really need to shift that mindset right now. Out here in a coastal environment, your roof is absolutely not just a lid. It is, quite literally, industrial armor for your life's largest financial investment. So today, we're going to break down exactly how you can build a high-performance, active defense system against the intense coastal elements we face every day in Brunswick and St. Simons Island. You know that specific, heavy stillness that settles over the marsh right before a storm tracks our way? It's that moment defined by the bruised purple sky and that sulfurous scent of low tide. It's beautiful, sure, but it's also incredibly high stakes. When those skies roll into Brunswick, I want you to ask yourself, is your roof just hoping for the best? Because if you're relying on blind hope instead of an engineered defense system, you're leaving your home incredibly vulnerable. Living on the coast means your property is constantly facing physical threats that homes further inland simply don't have to deal with. Okay, let's dive into this concept we call the salt air tax. This is the heavy and honestly often hidden cost of living near the ocean. Along the Atlantic coast, your home's exterior envelope is under a relentless 24/7 chemical and biological attack. It's crazy. The humidity-driven decay and that constant invisible salt spray are actively working to erode your building materials. And that leads to accelerated asset depreciation. If you aren't proactively mitigating this tax, you're essentially guaranteeing a premature roof replacement, and that completely disrupts your long-term financial planning and eats right into your property's equity. To really understand this salt air tax, we gotta look at its most visible symptom. You've seen it everywhere, those ugly black streaks running down rooftops. A lot of people just brush this off as coastal acne or a minor cosmetic nuisance, but the reality is way more sinister. Those streaks are actually a super hardy cyanobacteria called gluocapsa magma. This algae absolutely thrives in our sweltering Georgia humidity, and it literally feeds on the limestone filler used in standard asphalt shingles. Yep, it's a parasite, actively eating your roof from the inside out, trapping moisture right against the roof deck and causing premature structural rot. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is seeing how modern material science actually neutralizes that biological threat. On the left, we've got a standard shingle, which is basically an all-you-can-eat buffet for that algae we just talked about. But on the right, we have Atlas shingles equipped with Scotchgard protector technology. Instead of standard granules, this advanced system uses specialized granules packed with a high concentration of copper. So when moisture hits the roof, it triggers a controlled release of copper ions. This creates a chemically hostile environment where that algae simply cannot survive. Your roof stays pristine, your equity is protected, and most importantly, the structural mass of the shingle stays intact. All right, let's move into our next section, structural hardening, surviving the storm. So while stopping biological decay is huge, we also have to prepare for the sudden, violent physical threats of storm season. And that brings us to mechanical defenses. The number 20 is absolutely critical here. It represents the height in feet of a really intense laboratory test. When we're talking about hardening a coastal home, the ultimate gold standard is a UL 2218 Class 4 impact resistance rating. To get that rating, a shingle, like the high-performance Stormmaster Shake, has to endure a test where a solid 2-inch steel ball is dropped straight onto it from a height of 20 feet multiple times. To pass, the shingle can't fracture, crack, or fail. So when a tropical storm turns yard debris into high-speed projectiles, a Class 4 roof remains a sealed shield. That is what we mean by engineered confidence. But this brings up a very real dilemma, especially for homeowners in our high-end coastal markets. Must we sacrifice the beautiful St. Simons Island vibe just to get that industrial strength? For a long time, the answer was, unfortunately, yes. Traditional, gorgeous materials like real cedar shake, they just rot in the humidity. Natural slate is stunning, but it's often way too heavy for standard framing during major wind events. And clay tiles, they can literally shatter under impact. It always felt like this forced compromise between having a beautiful home and actually protecting it. And that brings us to what I absolutely love to call the material chameleons. Modern engineering has handed us a brilliant solution with Brava synthetic systems. These are incredible because they perfectly mimic the historic look of natural Spanish barrel tile, slate, and cedar shake. But because they're synthetically engineered, they are entirely impervious to rot, decay, and that corrosive salt air moisture. Plus, they're significantly lighter than natural slate or tile, which totally removes the need for expensive structural reinforcements. It is high-end, artisanal curb appeal with zero biological vulnerability. And this brilliantly illustrates how you can align your material choice with your 10-year property strategy. Let's break it down quickly. If you want top-tier protection on a budget, Atlas asphalt shingles give you incredible algae and impact resistance. Now, if you view your home as a long-term asset and want to reflect solar heat to cut down cooling costs, metal roofing is an ultra-durable option that's totally immune to that coastal acne. And finally, if you're dealing with strict HOA guidelines or just want to preserve a historic aesthetic without all the maintenance headaches, the Brava synthetic option is your ultimate wealth preservation move. Moving right along to our next section, your local roofing guide, the professional advocate. Let's move to and see how this builds, because here's the honest truth. The most advanced, impact-resistant algae-fighting materials in the world will absolutely fail if they aren't installed correctly. You don't just need someone to nail down shingles. You need a trusted professional advocate who actually understands the specific wind load requirements of Brunswick. Coastal Georgia Quality Roofs uses a completely transparent, no-pressure, 4-step process to get your home secured. Step 1 is a free inspection to spot hidden structural issues that an untrained eye will miss. Step 2 is honest recommendations. No pushy upsells, just data-driven advice on what you actually need. Step 3 is crucial, reviewing pricing and insurance, where they act as your advocate. And Step 4 is professional installation, executed exactly to the manufacturer's specs. But you know, the real proof of this process is found right in the community. Coastal Georgia Quality Roofs has over 20 years of local pedigree in the St. Simons and Brunswick area. Just look at this review from a local client, Larry Koch. He noted that while the replacement itself was top-notch, what was actually more impressive was the post-job follow-through from Jared and his crew. When you're securing a 20-year defense system for your home, that level of commitment and local accountability isn't just a nice bonus. It is an absolute requirement for your peace of mind. All right, so what's the big takeaway here? It's time to secure your perimeter. Waiting for a visible water leak to show up in your living room is literally the most expensive way to manage a property. By the time you see it, water has already compromised your insulation and framing. Remember, proactive maintenance is wealth preservation. A compromised roof is an unfunded liability, and honestly, the cost of delay is always higher than the cost of financing, especially since they offer fast approvals and have expert insurance claim specialists ready to help. So don't wait. Call Coastal Georgia Quality Roofs at 912-268-0486 or check them out at coastalgeorgiaqualityroofs.com before that next storm tracks toward the marsh. So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on the next time you step outside and feel that heavy, humid salt air. Your home is your greatest asset. Is your 20-year defense system ready, or will you let the relentless coastal elements dictate your home's future? The technology, the advanced materials, and the local expertise are all sitting there, ready for you right now to turn your roof into a literal fortress. The choice to install that shield? Well, that's entirely up to you. Thanks so much for joining me today, and here is to protecting what matters most.